Common sense is nothing more than a deposit of prejudices laid down in the mind before you reach 18. Welcome to the video about stereotypes and prejudices. Can't we just get rid of these annoying ideas and judgments about others and forget them? Why do stereotypes and prejudices last so long? And why do they even exist? Today we will be talking about historical and persisting stereotypes, the functions of stereotypes, their definition, and the different types, such as hetero and autostereotypes. There are lots of links to video examples and maybe something to laugh about. Let me preface by saying nobody can completely free themselves from stereotypes, but we can become aware of them and thereby strengthen our intercultural competence. You're probably aware of some stereotypes. In Germany, jokes about Austrians, East Frisians and blondes are very much a thing of the past. You still find them in joke books, but people hardly tell them anymore. If you are of English origin, you probably don't know jokes about blonde girls. In England, the same jokes are mostly told about the Essex girls, girls from the county of Essex who are considered particularly stupid in England. More recent stereotypes have also arisen together with socio-political disputes. During the pandemic, the term COVIDiots arose, and similar phrases exist in many different languages. And, of course, we also have the stereotypes of the white old man, or the boomer for the baby boomer generation. Stereotypes which have only emerged in recent years. Maybe we should first focus on stereotypes about certain nationalities. You're welcome to pause for a moment and get a piece of paper to take notes on. You need 5 numbers. Number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Please write down the nationality you guessed after your numbers. What nationality could be meant if the following characteristics are mentioned? The person is polite, controlled, pedantic, aloof, plays rugby, likes to be knocked out in penalty shootouts in soccer, is quiet, conservative, elegant, drinks tea. Second, is elegant, talkative, charming, a womanizer or lady killer, flexible, careless, relaxed, doesn't like speaking foreign languages, likes to drink red wine. Third, proud, traditionally minded, respectful of age, likes to speak loudly, gesticulates expressively, Catholic, drinks espresso. Fourth, neat, punctual, hardworking, precise, economical, boring, profound, hardworking, drinks beer. The fifth, patient, disorganized, unfriendly, doesn't smile, hard accent in other languages, clever, open, argumentative, drinks vodka. If you guessed all the nationalities correctly, the result should be as follows: English, French, Italian, German, Russian. Why are we able to guess so accurately? I suspect it's because we all share similar ideas. Perhaps I can show this with a well-known joke. There's a lot of discussion about Europe. The European Union is an exciting project that somehow tries to overcome the nationalism that has led to so many wars and claimed countless lives in the past century. This supranational project has friends and enemies. The fact is that never before has there been peace between countries in this region for such a long period of time. So we ask ourselves, what should this Europe be like as a continent and as a European Union, of course? Our Europe would be heaven on earth if the police were British. Having lived and worked in England myself, I can perhaps confirm that the British police are comparably tolerant and friendly in everyday situations. Heaven world would be if the Swedes wrote the laws, the cooks were French, the mechanics and engineers were German, the lovers were Italian, and everything was negotiated and organized by the Swiss. On the other hand, it would be the hell on earth if the chefs were British, the mechanics French, the lovers from Switzerland, the policemen German, and everything was organized by Italians. If you know Jamie Oliver's cooking or have been to English restaurants, you know that this joke may be funny, but it's not necessarily true. The same applies to Italians, who of course show that they can organize things by producing Fiat, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and German policemen also let things slide sometimes. Stereotypes are sometimes very old and hardly change over long periods of time. This may be clear from the following picture. This diagram here is around 300 years old and was created in 1725 in Styria in the former Habsburg Empire. It is called the Table of Nations and defines very specific characteristics for people from certain countries. In the appendix you will find a link to the Wikipedia source about this picture, where all the supposed characteristics are also shown in German in Latin script to make this readable in an easier way. According to the painter's ideas, the Spanish are arrogant, wonderful, clever and wise. The French are careless, friendly and talkative. The German is open-hearted, quite good and witty. The Englishman is pleasant, amiable and graceful. The Polak, that was at this time the name for people from Poland, the Pole, is rustic, even wilder and disdainful, and very interesting in one more category, the Turk or the Greek, who is one category for both of them, who are like the April weather and liars. To see how persistent and how long-lasting stereotypes can be, it is worth pausing here to watch the videos Smart Short Takes, which was recorded with Carsten van Rissen in 2007 for the 10th anniversary of the car model Smart. You can find the link on YouTube in the appendix on Moodle and Elias in your current learning module. So what are the characteristics of stereotypes? They are generalized and very consistent ideas about groups and about the individual members of these groups. Stereotypes can be neutral or positive, as in statements about the blonde Swede or the orderly German. On the other hand, we see prejudices that attribute to whole groups certain bad characteristics that exclude, that discriminate people. Prejudices are always negative. Prejudices follow the pattern of I am good, you're bad. Stereotypes and prejudices are not the product of one's own experiences, but are conveyed through stories, commercials, through films or jokes. They are a kind of finished product that refers to traditions. Stereotypes and prejudices owe their longevity to the so-called confirmation bias, which is explained in more detail in the video on the topic of perception. People have a certain image through jokes and through advertising, for example, of the disorganized, chaotic Italians. Once on vacation in Italy, these people then discover exactly what they already thought and knew. However, people give little to no attention to observations that do not confirm or even contradict their preconceived image of Italians. Stereotypes and prejudices exist in every culture. They are shared by many members of a group and change very slowly. At this point, I would like to draw your attention to two films on the subject of prejudice. The film 12 Angry Men is a classic in film history and is set in a room where the jury is meeting in a murder case involving a Latino in the United States who is said to have been killed by his son. For a long time, it was considered almost certain that the son would be convicted until the prejudices became more and more obvious. The scene from the American film is linked here. Another example worth seeing is the American film Don't Be a Sucker, which was recorded as an anti-racist and anti-fascist educational film by the War Department in 1943 and released in 1947. So what do stereotypes do for us? What functions do they have? First of all, we should be aware that stereotypes once played a major role in our survival. Forepaws, big, huge, saber-toothed creature that must be the tiger, and I should run away quickly. On a cognitive level, stereotypes help us to select and categorize stimuli and information in a very complex world. They help us to take the wealth of information that we receive from the world and to simplify it in order to understand it better. It is therefore about the organization of social information. On an affective level, example the emotional level, stereotypes and prejudices offer us a kind of a protection for our ego. Unpleasant and bad characteristics are projected onto others. In social psychologies, we speak of a shift in aggression. In social terms, stereotypes as mental constructs offer the possibilities of drawing boundaries between two different groups. Or it makes the differences. First point. They serve to separate and exclude and give a social identity of their own. If you were brought up in Germany or even in Germany's southwest, you certainly remember this example. We can do everything except speaking High German. This is also a stereotype, but not a heterostereotype aimed on others. It is an autostereotype, an example, a description of one's own group. Now, I could provide several more examples of German autostereotypes. However, it may make more sense to reflect on autostereotypes of your own homeland, of your own home culture. What do countrymen think of themselves? Which characteristics do television spots, films and jokes ascribe to their own national background? Which media examples can you find? I will most appreciate your links to examples in the comment section or by email, of course. Of course, there are not only autostereotypes of Germans or Swabians about themselves, but also stereotypes of other cultures about the Germans. That's why I translated this map for you. It is based on an internet find on which the cliché stereotypes and prejudices about various German regions are noted in English. On the map, the region around East Frisia is described as stupid and the northern Germans as stubborn. Mecklenburg-Vorpommern is seen as a region from which there is no information, similar to how East Brandenburg is said to be an offline area. The girls who are easy to get are in North Rhine-Westphalia, and the gays and lesbians may have something to do with the Christopher Street Day in Cologne, I guess, where it took place the first time. The first Christopher Street Day took place. In Bavaria, of course, the conservatives, the sausages and beer rule, while Baden-Württemberg in the southwest is said to be the home of the engineers and the eco-freaks who are both wealthy and stingy. If you want to see stereotypical and folkloristic Germany through the eyes of tourists, it is always worth stopping by at a souvenir shop if you're at the airport, at the castle Neuschwanstein, or a tourist hotspot. The stereotypes about Germans are not the same all over the world. Reise-Know-how, a travel guidebook, warns German travelers to China and India, for example, about the stereotype of Germans who like to lie naked in a garden in summer. Naked in the garden in summer, which presumably means the English garden in Munich. Germans are described as giants with big noses and German mien, all have beer bellies and look like they are 7 months pregnant. For orientation, you can find this picture here, beer, there, baby. Okay. Encounters in which Germans are confronted with the Nazi era are less entertaining, I guess. There are films about the Second World War and ideas about the Germans all over the world. An Indian once, when I was traveling, said to me, "Germany, Adolf Hitler, good man," which shocked me, right? As it probably would shock every German. Of course, we in Germany are aware that the Holocaust was not just a genocide, as has unfortunately happened far too often in mankind's history, but a systematic and organized extermination of people. Knowing this, Adolf Hitler cannot, of course, be called a good man. In further conversation with the Indian, it turned out that he knew nothing about the Holocaust, but instead showed a typically Indian perspective on the Second World War. Hitler went to war against England, then India became independent. Our topic is therefore not just about reflecting on controlling our own stereotypical ideas about others, but also being able to deal with situations in which we ourselves are confronted with stereotypical ideas that others have about us. It is complicated, but it's worth it. Of course, there are also links to television clips describing the stereotypes about Germans. Enjoy. Let me summarize. Autostereotypes describe one's own group. Heterostereotypes describe other groups. Stereotypes are a reduction in complexity and are part of human thinking, which is why we cannot get rid of them. But we can reflect on stereotypes and slowly reduce them. Stereotypes are considered a perception filter because they prevent us from perceiving our counterparts in their individual diversity and simply overvalue their membership to a certain group, in a certain group. For intercultural encounters, it is therefore not only important to be aware of our own stereotypes, but also to be prepared for the fact that stereotypes about our groups will become visible in our counterparts. Reducing stereotypes requires not only encounters, but also cooperation, as we will see shortly. Especially if you organize intercultural encounters between groups such as student exchanges or trips abroad for groups, or if you work as a social worker in a community work. The kontakt hypothesis of perhaps the most important prejudiced researcher, Gordon Allport, is interesting. First, let's look at the vicious circle. At the first level, Allport sees derogatory remarks and bad-mouthing of others. At the second level, contact and encounters are deliberately avoided, while at the third level, people actively discriminate when they do meet. At level 4, there's physical violence, and at level 5, the destruction of others. Others are dehumanized by derogatory remarks. This is a necessity, a necessary prerequisite for later discrimination or even violence, simply because every person in every culture naturally has moral ideas about how to treat other people. Only when the others no longer belong to the group of humans and people and to the human species in their minds, there can be a downward spiral established. Gordon Allport believed that the key to breaking down stereotypes and prejudices and preventing the progress through the vicious circle is support from people in authority and people who are respected in both groups. Personal interaction that takes place on an equal footing and cooperation towards a common goal, such as building a playground, playing team sports together, etc., are a good way to help people learn interpersonally and interculturally. The experience that the other may do something a little differently, but that we are also achieving a common goal, is crucial. An absolute must-see is the video clip All We Share from Danish television station, which is linked below or in the learning module. Related topics to the topic of stereotypes are perception and the topic of attribution. On YouTube, I encourage you to leave your remarks in the comments and to like and to subscribe. Thank you for your valued cooperation and the feedback on the seminar and on the online learning platforms.